Good afternoon and welcome to An Actor's Life, the series, the show by an actor, for creatives, or anyone living their best life and in need of inspiration while pursuing their dreams. I am your creator and host, Michele Baldwin, and I am so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. My name is Benton K. Thomas. I am co-host with Michele Baldwin for Actors Like the series. And we want to thank you. And we have a dynamic show for you today. We have men of color and they are discussing everything, COVID, entertainment, being in this business, what it's like being dads, happy Father's Day. And also, how are we going to get through this? Let me just say happy Juneteenth, everybody. Happy Father's Day. Thank you for joining in. And now I would just like to turn it over.
Oh, that's right. We're turning the platform over to the men of color for a dose of real talk. Oh my God, you're not going to want to miss this. This is going to be an exciting show. Happy Father's Day, happy Juneteenth, and we're out of here, turning the platform over to Mr. Pervis Taylor.
My name is Pervis Taylor III. I am an award-winning celebrity life coach, speaker, and author of the book Survival Mode, a book that teaches men of color how to process and navigate through their emotions and mental health. I'm also co-founder of Alchemic Solutions, a program that is partnered with the City University system here in New York and Black Male Initiative program that teaches young men of color how to develop emotional intelligence. I've been doing this work for 10 years. I have a master's in clinical psychology. We are in an interesting space and an interesting time as a collective. And I've been asked over and over again, like, how do we navigate? How do we make it through this time in this space? And we're in a time of COVID, right, where we are, as persons of color, we are disproportionately affected. Couple that with just us being humans and having to work out our own issues, and then add on the other layer of the current racial tensions that we're experiencing now in the country. And my answer is always honoring, for men, is always honoring that space of humanity within us. While we can't control what is happening outside of us, we can't control what's happening from within us. And so my words of encouragement is to make sure that we as men do the things that make us feel good, that make us feel whole, that make us feel like our souls are being nourished, because life does happen to us, but life also happens from us. And so while we're in this time of what seems like chaos, we got to remember that life is happening from us. And so to focus on that, while we honor the grief, while we honor the pain, but also honor the creativity, also honor the joy that also can emanate during this time. There's so many, while we're in the time of crisis, there are blessings happening at the same time. And so we as men, we are complex beings, so we can honor several spaces at each time. So all I'm saying to us as men is to remember about the life that is happening from us rather than what's happening to us. Thank you.
I'm not sure if everybody can see me. I can't see anybody. But
yes, sir.
Lamman Rucker here. What's good, everybody?
Hey, what's happening, brother?
What's happening, Lamman?
So I guess I'm first up, huh? Lamman Rucker, actor, educator, artist, activist, entrepreneur. You know, as I throw out, you know, multiple little slashes or dashes or whatever in there, just you know, trying to do my work and fulfill my purpose as a man trying to actualize his you know, his potential to serve his community, serve his people, serve our nation, you know, serve our creator to the best of my ability. I'm also the CEO and co-founder of organization originally called the Black Gents of Hollywood, now currently monikered as just the Black Gents. We're more of a global organization, but we're a nonprofit founded and created by other fellow writers, actors, directors, producers, and just committed to and focused on the kind of work and discussions we're talking about today, as well as really using the arts as the primary tool to enrich, enhance, and kind of extract the creative spirit in all people, but in particular people of color, and to use the arts as the catalyst for education, entertainment, and empowerment for you know, for our communities, uplifting and restoring, I'll say maybe revitalizing and reinvigorating the positive and magnificent image of what we understand and what we really know the true capacity of Black men and boys really is, as opposed to some of the patterns of narrative out there around us. So thrilled to be here with everybody today and to, you know, to share and love and give whatever I can to contribute to the, you know, the genius surrounding me. So looking forward to our conversation.
Right on, right on. Well, thank y'all, Pervis, Lamman. I'll keep my intro really, really brief because I'm really, really excited. I mean, Pervis kind of got me up there with those encouraging words, man, and seeing Lamman up here and James and all of the brothers, like I'm really excited to hear from you guys. But simply, my name is Warner Miller. I'm Catherine's son. I'm Alma's grandbaby. I'm the husband of Janelle and the father of Amani. And I act sometimes, and I tell people about Jesus. That's pretty much the up and down of me. Go ahead, James.
Fantastic. Hey, man, listen, I'm really, really excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me on board. Just real simple. I'm like Warren, I'm gonna keep it real simple. Actor, writer, producer. I'm actually living in Texas. Married, beautiful wife, Lisa Jackson. I have 3 boys, Zion, Zayden, and Zevin, ages 16, 15, and 9. So this is a really important conversation that, you know, as a man who has and is raising young men, this is something that's really important. And so I'm very happy to be here and just want to break bread with you guys and have a great conversation.
Thank you, James. We have a panel full of just dope, profound, artistic, intelligent, accomplished brothers. And I would very much like for them to introduce themselves. Let's see. Let's start with Mr. Levy Lee Simon. You mind introducing yourself, brother? There you go.
There we go. My name is Levy Lee Simon, and thank you, Benja, for asking me to be a part of this. Thank you, Actors Life, for asking me to be a part of this. For those of you that don't know me, I am originally from Harlem, USA, the real Harlem, USA, not the new Harlem. You know, I grew up in Harlem when Harlem was Harlem, and New York City was like Gotham City, very dangerous and raw and real. And my training, you know, Harlem comes with all the stereotypes, but it also, on the flip side of that, is a culturally rich environment with Black families trying to do everything that any other family is trying to do, make a best life for their families, give their children the best opportunities to succeed in the world. And so, you know, I had that double-edged coin or double-sided coin. And growing up as an artist, I started out as an actor in this business. You know, I've been on Broadway and all of that. But you know, I say that acting is my first love, but writing is my responsibility. You know, I realized early on that our stories were not being told. So I was encouraged by a mentor of mine, to Nathan George. And Nathan said to me, Lee, if you don't like what's going on, if you want to act in a great script, write it yourself. And I started writing, and the rest is kind of history. And I believe in telling stories that that are not going to be told by the other people. And that's my thing. Yeah. So anyway, I'll pass right there.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Mr. Simon. Brother Benton, it's on you, man.
What's going on, Warner? Hey, everybody. I'm an actor and artist, father, and an educator. Keep it real brief. I'm a Harlemite, taking shots at the new Harlem, but I'm originally from Brooklyn, East New York. The same type of, exactly, East New York. Same type of thing, growing up in a neighborhood where we had a lot of Black professionals and people from the Caribbean, and really having that instilled in me as a kid, to that I saw a lot of the things that I'm trying to show my 15-year-old son who's poking his head in and out of the room right now. So yeah, real happy to be here today with y'all brothers.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben. John Jones, brother, if you would kindly introduce yourself.
What's happening, everybody? I'm JJ Jones, actor, producer. Been around this business for a long time. Was playing ball with a young man that was like, he said, man, I started watching you when I was 5 years old, and he was like 30. So, you know,
Wow.
So I was like, hey, I guess I'm an official OG now.
Indeed.
But listen, happy to be here with you brothers. Some of you, I've seen your work, and proud to be sharing the screen with you. And also, it takes a lot to make a decision that you're going to be an artist through all the ups and downs and the things that life brings us. So I want to commend everybody here for staying true to that thing that first grabbed you, that made you want to be an artist, and then fitting life in around who you originally were so we could all be here right now. I'm proud to be here with you, and seeing what's going on in the streets right now. It feels to me like this is almost what white folks expected to happen the day after Obama got elected, right? He'd be elected, and all of a sudden we was gonna be in the streets, we was gonna be beating back the cops, we was going to be demanding, and everybody was kind of like, you know, waiting, because we didn't know what to expect. Because I don't know about you, but I never expected for the brother to actually get elected. So when we had a Black president, I was sitting there, I was stunned for a while. Then you saw there was this immediate backlash of a political effort to make sure first that he was a one-term president, that nothing that he did worked. He had to do everything on his own. Then the further backlash was to vote in a freaking Klansman to be the president. And then that went on for 3 or 4 years. And finally, we've gotten to the point where the people have said, because of what happened to George Floyd, the people have decided enough is enough. And now there's this explosion of consciousness going on.
Mr. Jones, before you go, because you bringing us to the ocean, man. You bringing us deep, man. Before we get too far out there too quick, I wanna just introduce this last brother, Chris Bethune. He's gonna give us the I guess the parameters by how we are to, I guess, conduct ourselves on here, because you know the sisters have allowed us this platform, and you know, we want to return it even better than what we got it.
There you go.
How we received it. So Mr. Chris Bethune, please introduce yourself.
All right, what's up, everybody? My name is Christopher Bethune. I'm a child protective service worker. I'm an actor. I do all of the above. I'm also your show's correspondent. And first, happy Juneteenth. I want to say happy Father's Day to all the men, and I want to say happy birthday to you, Warner. But I want to get right into the show's perimeter. So before we get started, a couple of housekeeping rules. First things first, for Zoom room attendees, please keep your cameras off and your sound on mute until we're able to call upon you on the question and answer segment. Also, please don't forget to raise your hand, you know, for the request, so that and send me a message in the chat box if you wish to have your comment read or spoken. Please, again, make sure all your phones are off. And for our virtual community, like, we are extremely excited that you joined the show today. If you have any questions or commentary, please, you know, post it on the YouTube live chat feed, and I will relay them to the panel, okay? Enjoy our show. See you guys soon.
Appreciate you, Chris. Appreciate you, Chris. And just once again, I want to extend my thanks to the lovely ladies of An Actor's Life for allowing us this platform, allowing, you know, the brothers to work it out a little bit, you know, and to give us this time to talk, you know, to chop it up, to box it out. You know, hopefully, you know, we don't leave with any bloody noses, but hopefully for those who are listening, you are blessed, you are informed, you are challenged, and all those things. So first, before we get into any deep stuff, I simply want to know, how's everyone doing, man? How's everyone doing with regard to what's been happening in the world? I know that is a great, big, loaded question, and we could probably write a dissertation just simply on not how am I doing, but how I'm doing today, versus every other day. But yeah, as brief as you can, but certainly giving yourself time to go in. How are you doing today, man? Lamman, let's start with you since I'm looking at you first. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great. Be honest with you, that doesn't mean I'm pleased, but I choose to be great, choose to be feeling great, choose to be in a good mood, choose to be half full, not half empty. But that doesn't mean that I'm unaware or detached from what's happening around me and within me. But I use these moments as really as opportunities, man, as opportunities to go, like I just said, to do both things, to go inward and really listen to what, to what's happening with me, how God's speaking to me, what feelings and impulses and images and memories and imaginations and visions and dreams and plans and strategies are all coming to mind. Just really being really internal and still to some degree. So whatever's supposed to happen next has some clarity and some discipline and some direction and truth and and honesty and strength and foundation behind it. At the same time, there are immediate things that I've been doing just to be very directly involved and engaged in what I believe are solutions, or at least ingredients to solutions to in response to what's happening around us. And that's not just the pandemic of racism, but naturally also the pandemic of COVID and the other existing pandemics, whether it's gender and sexual identity inequality, whether it's as an educator, I'm very, very involved and sensitive to even how COVID and other events have impacted our educational, I'll say dysfunction, unfortunately. But again, I see it as an opportunity for us to kind of take advantage of this time to say, oh yeah, well, here's another breakdown and maybe a very significant one, or even a halt or a disruption. This gives us the opportunity to rebuild, to restructure, to redesign how education should have and could be happening, could have been happening before and could be happening going forward. So it's easy to be really discouraged right now. So I'm definitely very sensitive, to that. But the way I've learned to respond and the way I choose to respond is by being part of the solution and, coming up with ways to be directly involved, engaged, and committed to my personal action as well as mobilizing others to do a myriad of things that they can do, with whatever it is that they do and whatever it is their heart is saying to them, but to help people not be too impulsive, but definitely to be passionate and very directed and convicted about what they're doing. So I think it's an incredible time to be hopeful and and action oriented and not be too discouraged or shut down.
Right. Thank you, man. Thank you. So yeah, man. Let's because I really do want to hear from everyone. Let's let me go to Benton. How you feeling today, brother?
I'm good, man. I've been giving myself. I love what Lamman was just saying about the stillness, and I'm really trying to give myself the opportunity to be still, and to when people ask me that question, to really answer from where I am currently. Right. And currently, I'm great. I'm great. I have, I'm really fortunate. I feel like my life, I have all these blessings around me. And this time period has given me that space to sometimes, I feel like, especially as artists and Black artists, and Black artists in New York, I can speak for, there's this pressure that's from the outside of keeping up, always kind of moving. And so just having that space and that opportunity to slow down, my meditation practice, really listen to what's going on inside, I feel we're really hopeful, really hopeful at this time. So yeah.
That's good. Yo, and I appreciate that. And I don't think I need to say this here, but just so everyone listening knows, we keeping it, as the kids say in the street, we keeping it a buck here. We keeping it 100. We're being honest. If you're feeling great, that's honest. If you're not feeling great, that's honest as well. But this conversation is we are being as transparent and as honest as possible, because transparency can heal. Let's Pervis, how you feeling, brother?
Bro, I am tired. I'm tired. I mean, it's so crazy because I'm in demand, but I feel kind of guilty about what I'm in demand about. Being as though I've been working in this space for 10 years before it became an issue with men and their mental health. And so I kind of foresaw that. And so I'm tired, but I also feel purposeful. Because I feel like I'm being of use. I feel like I'm really operating in the space in which God created me to be. Like, I've never felt that so much in my life as I do right now. It's so interesting, like just the conversations I'm having with men and just people from all walks of life, and how, just the words that I've been sharing, they said, has disarmed the pain or the anxiety that they've been experiencing. And so that makes me feel joyful. So it's like I'm feeling a myriad of things. I'm exhausted, but I'm purposeful. I feel very present, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful that God bestowed upon me the gift that He bestowed upon me to do this work. And I've been getting emails every day from young men and grown men, all of like Pervis, I was thinking about ending it. I was thinking about doing something crazy to myself, and just listening to you made me change my mind. So I feel a myriad of things, but tired, I would say tired is the big one, and I would say purposeful is the second one.
Okay. Mr. OG, Mr. JJ Jones, how you feeling, brother?
What's up, Big John?
Hey, what's happening, Lamman? How you doing, bro?
I'm good, brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Yeah, listen, I'm good. I have a basic saying when people ask me that, which is, bills are paid, family's healthy, I'm healthy, God is good. And I'm a little older than most of you guys on the call. And so when you get to the other side of 50, you start seeing life in kind of a different way. And you're not trying to climb anymore, because you've kind of done all the climbing you can do. Now you're kind of standing wherever you stand and looking around and saying, how did I do? And I realized at a certain point that I was doing great, but I was about to miss it, comparing myself to people who I thought were doing better. And so I was able to drop that rock. It was like a 400-pound rock, just like I think it was one of the brothers was just saying, the pressure to keep doing something as an artist, and maybe not realizing that you've already had a tremendous impact. And so in my space right now, bills are paid, family's healthy, I'm healthy, I'm good. And I'm looking out at the world and I'm like stunned. I was sat there yesterday on a feed that had all of the local news feeds of Juneteenth. And I've never heard the words Juneteenth, slavery, or systemic racism so many times. I heard it more yesterday than I've heard in 10 years. And it just means that the conversation, the narrative has now changed, and that the whole country is now at least aware that there is racism out here that exists in ways that aren't just somebody calling you a nigga. And that those ways have an effect on people's lives all over. So I'm hopeful, as well as feeling okay for myself. I'm hopeful at what's happening in the streets right now that it feels to me like this is genuine change. And like people aren't going back out of the streets anytime soon. So they got to keep coming up with stuff to try to placate the people, but not understanding that the people aren't going to be placated.
Right.
So I'm hopeful from that regard, and also I feel a hurt in my heart, like we all do, from that 8 minutes and 46 seconds, and how people had heard, and we've been telling them this is what's going on, but to actually see it happen, and not in a sudden way or an explainable way, but that it just was what it was. And that knowing that if you saw somebody do that to a dog on film for 8 minutes, you would think something was really wrong with that person. And in fact, you would call the police to come and get that person because of the cruelty that he just exhibited to that dog. And I think this is the first time that a lot of white people had to have that experience with us rather than hearing it from us. That video made them experience it with us, and it changed them. They can't go back to saying that it doesn't exist anymore, because they have the feeling, they have the emotion inside of them now. So
we gonna
so I'm feeling a lot of stuff.
Touch on that one.
I'm feeling a lot of stuff, but I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And let me just say this, just throughout our time here, please forgive me if I cut you off or maybe try to. It's not that people don't want to hear what you have to say at all. I have some of the sisters in my ear saying keep it moving. But I also want to hear from all of y'all. I want to hear from all of you guys, because all of you guys have something very, very rich to add to this conversation. So,
and they're telling
please,
you,
forgive me.
They tell you slow that JJ down. He talks a lot.
Almost verbatim. That's what they said. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna go to Mr. Simon. Then we're gonna end it off with James Jackson. I think Lamman has a burning question. But
it's Simon, how you throw that in a second too. Levy Lee, it's on you, baby.
What's up, man? Good to see you, brother, and all that yella.
My man.
Yes, sir. You know, you asked the question is, how do I feel? And, that changes I range the gamut. I go from being okay to being angry and enraged and frustrated. COVID comes in and it's taking people out. I mean, in large numbers. And you got people out there that are not taking it seriously, don't believe it exists. Then we find out that it's hitting our people harder than anybody else, and my thing is like, you know what? I'm listening to the scientists and I'm listening to the doctors, and I'm staying my ass home. I'm a man with pre-existing conditions. I had open heart surgery about 5-6 years ago. I'm not trying to feel that. And so I've been quarantined, and being quarantined for me has not been that big of a deal. I'm a writer, I'm at home, I'm writing, I'm actually being very, very productive, catching up on some Netflix, and all of that, and then, it's kind of strange that it's almost like all this stuff started happening. It's like the perfect storm. You got people at home, a lot of people unemployed, right? And then when, first Breonna Taylor, which was kind of low key. And then we witnessed Ahmaud Arbery being chased down like a runaway slave and shot down before our eyes. And then within a week, we got, George Floyd. And the audacity of it to me, and now the Rayshawn in Atlanta, and the audacity of it is that They know the climate. They know the temperature. And they say, well, we don't care. I'm going to put my knee on his neck. I'm going to look you right in the eye with my hands in my pocket and basically say, F you. And it's like, did I feel some rage then? I'm like wanting to, I mean, because listen, who knows? But I feel like if I was there present, how could I not try and stop it? How could I not try and run and tackle that dude?
Right.
You know, I mean, listen, that's how I felt inside. So my feelings on any given day, you know, it spans the gamut. It goes up and down and all over the place, you know, and thank God I have a strong faith to always come back to. But I go through it, man. I'll be honest with you, man. You know,
yeah,
it's
man.
crazy.
Nah, that's honest. That's honest. And I think a lot of us can attest to that. James, my brother, I'm sorry. We got a burning question with Lamman.
No, but you know what? I think there's a way to tie what I wanted to ask even into this existing question, because part of what I wanted to throw out to y'all is, you know, connected to this, and even just across the board, even when it comes to our industry and the industries that we're all kind of connected to and integrated into, you know, you know, there's often this feeling that, you know, these even events like this kind of put us in a position where, do we feel like this undervalues, you know, our status, right? As Black men, which seems like there's an obvious answer to that. But then the other part that I think is really interesting is that I think sometimes this may put us in a position where I wonder if it makes you feel like you now have to prove yourself even more as a Black man, you know, as Black men, relative to our value, or how people value you or value us. So, you know, so James, since we didn't get a chance to really tie you in specifically on the last one, if you can maybe, you know, focus your answer there. Like, do you feel like you have to prove yourself, or you've had your challenges with being, you know, validated as a Black man?
No, man, I'm in a place now where I don't even feel I need to be validated. I don't need to seek anybody's validation or approval anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever I do, I'm gonna do it, and I know my self-worth now. It took me a while to get there. I'm not gonna even lie. It took a long time to get to that place, but I'm at a place now where I'm choosing to stay in the light. I'm choosing to be positive. I'm choosing to be an example rather than bitch and complain. Like, what can I do? And I'm not worried about somebody picking me to do something. I'm not worried about what white folks think or what this person thinks or whatever. I feel like I have a mission. I feel like I have something to contribute, and I'm going to do that. So, you know, I'm like everybody else. I'm feeling so many emotions, you know what I'm saying? Because everything that's going on. But if I really sat in all of that, you know, I might just curl up on the bed and just not even get up. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I just choose to be blessed and be happy and welcome all that the universe has for me to do and to give back to the community and to everybody. So, you know, if you had asked me 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I probably been like, you know, yeah, I'm at this audition. I want to get picked. I want somebody to choose me. I need you to help me do this. And I'm like, nah, you know, fuck that. I ain't trying to do all that. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now with it.
So with that, I think that's interesting. And even listening to, you know, to our elder statesmen of our crew right now, who's, you know, spoke right before you, and in particular with you and Benton having teenage boys, you know, I think there's a generational dynamic, you know, maybe to the answer to this question. So even maybe Benton, if you want to throw in a little bit of that energy, because, you know, speaking of your 15-year-old, you know, it's going to impact, right, our teenagers and our 20-somethings different than us, that's 30 and 40-somethings. And then, you know, Levy Lee and Big John as maybe our, you know, 50-somethings, you know. So, like, how are you feeling with regard to that, and what maybe are you aware of, or do you wonder, or what are your concerns about maybe what's on your son's heart?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. And just to Warner's point was before, keeping it very real, is that But kind of what James was saying just now in terms of maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would answer that question very differently. The reality is I had a lot of work to do and still do work on myself to do to make sure that when I look in the mirror, that I'm modeling what I know the child of the spirit that I'm under, that I'm modeling that. If I'm modeling those ideals, then I'm on the right path. If I keep with that, I'm on the right path. And so I've been focusing more like, I've been really cautious about reactionary parenting, right? Because there's this thing where, the world is out, and he's been hearing this for so long, where I'm telling my son, you got to be better, you got to do this, you got all those things that I grew up hearing from my parents, you got to be twice as good and all that. I'm stripping some of that stuff away. I want him to know what the world is. We talk about the world, he's involved with it, he's lived in Harlem his entire life. But the reality is, what I really, my focus, my goal every single day is to be modeling my true self in front of him. And so he helped me with an audition the other day. He helped me with the piece. And he saw that I had to do this thing 7, 8, 9 times.
Right.
He didn't just see the thing that was done.
Right.
I had him help me. So he's watching me fail and he's watching how I recover. And so I feel like that is really where my focus is, that, these people at school, he's dealt with it. He came back home. There's an ice cream shop in our neighborhood that opened up that became really divisive because it was like the new ice cream shop, the wink, wink. And he went in there with some of his friends. And he was like, he came back out, they were talking about, it's like, these people in there, not the owners, but the people that were there, these white women basically were made him feel like they didn't belong there. He lived there his entire life. And so he knows what that's already is. So I don't really have to preach that to him, but I'm very cautious and conscious these days of like making sure that he gets to see me fail. He gets to see me be honest. He gets to see me be vulnerable. He gets to see all these things. He gets to experience all of our joy. We travel together, He spends a lot of time in Black nations. My family's from, Jamaica and Barbados, so we go there a lot. So he sees what it's like to be in nations where there are Black people, and I don't have to tell him. He gets it. He gets it when everyone,
stand up, baby. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? All those things, like, he knows what it is. And so that's really what my focus is. It's like that Black joy has to be transferred to our generations. We have to model it and then keep transferring it to them, because that's what they need to be full of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's great that you're there for that authenticity, as well as helping him interpret and communicate. I think that's what's vitally important as parents and as Black men, as you said, modeling for one another and for our young people is not being afraid to show what the process really looks like, and be honest about what you're going through, how you feel, how you communicate about it, and what different lenses to process it all through. So that's powerful, man. So Pervis, as the therapist, in the crew, if I may, a lot of my experience is in counseling and different therapies, but you're the expert. So what would your response, to this be relative to, I think, not just personally, but also clinically?
In terms of worth and value?
And kind of these feelings of whether you have felt the need to prove yourself, or the validation, or even one of Benton's point kind of made me feel like it brought to mind like how a lot of men kind of how that pride and ego can force or encourage people to overcompensate, right, in certain ways. So his humility and authenticity that he was talking about, I think, was very profound. James too. So so what are some of those feelings, and what's been important in your response as a clinician?
Well, I think we got to understand the difference between affirmation and validation, right? I feel like everybody needs to be affirmed, right? That's that's a human need. We all want to hear like, yo, you're doing a good job. But validation, that's a next level, because that's about worth and someone holding your worth in their hands. And so for me, it's like a long time ago, of course I wanted to be validated. I was like, in this space of working with Black men, I didn't have the degrees yet. I was just doing it off of, just knowledge that I had. And I would find myself in white spaces where they were asking me, what are your degrees? Like, what qualifies you being here? Right. And that bothered me. And then at the end of the session, when they see these men crying, they see these, like a long line, fans waiting for, their favorite artist, I would be like, that's what qualifies me being here. These results is what qualifies me being here. And so I had this conversation with myself, and I said, you know what, Pervis, you got to give yourself permission to thrive, to be your best. and that can't come from anybody but from you. And so clinically, I always say that life, again, life happens from you. So you get to choose your life. You get to choose who you want to be. You get to choose how you want to show up. And that was so freeing for me, understanding that my worth comes from God, right? And it also comes from me. So I'm I feel like you have to build your life on a positive foundation. And I always ask my clients, I always ask men, what are the 5 things that you can name about yourself that make you amazing? Right? And it's 5, right? But I've had celebrities, I've had NFL players,
I know that technique all too well. Isn't it deep how challenging that is for some people?
It's deep how challenging it is for people. Yeah. And so then that tells me you have an issue with worth. You have an issue with value, self-value.
And defining it. And defining it and being specific for yourself.
And articulating it with power, right? And so that's the thing about, I teach my clients there's a difference between confidence and power. Power is regardless. Confidence is more specific towards a thing. And so like once I discover my power, I don't need validation from anyone. So whether I'm in a room full of Harvard PhDs, it doesn't matter because I know that I'm worthy and I deserve to be there. And I know that I'm the best at what I do. But that's something that was a journey that I had to take, and I had to be intentional about it. So like, as I feel like clinically, we have to be intentional about how we want to show up in the world. We have to be intentional about our healing. We have to be intentional about our wholeness. We have to be intentional about us thriving, which is really operating at optimal levels. And so that's a journey. Again, it's a journey with ourselves that we have to take and not be afraid of it.
No, that's so good. And James, I'm gonna pop that to you. And I know you had something you wanted to ask, but I thinking of your earlier statements about, and not to improperly paraphrase, but there was a kind of laid backness that I dug about, which was like, man, I ain't gotta do that. James, like, I ain't going through all that. And to me, that connects very much to where I am a lot of times, and I think to what you just said, Pervis, which is we kind of get to a point where maybe we don't feel like we got to work that hard for anybody else to put that stamp on our forehead. But the way the game has to be played for us to be official, right? It's like, okay, let me go over here and get this degree, so I can get that like official grade A stamp on my forehead. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, it just sounds like what I'm saying is just a brother mouthing off, But James, like you kind of mentioned, you didn't necessarily feel like you had to really go through that, right now. But, what other thoughts you have on that, or how's that connect to what your question was?
Well, the thing as far as having kids and especially young boys, right, is being honest with them and talking to them and being, my dad never shared. We didn't have conversations about feelings and emotions and all of that.
My dad's exactly the opposite.
Okay, yeah. My dad was like, now we ain't talking about, bop and keep it moving. Right. But my wife has been able to, over the years, help me open up and help me talk more about how I feel, and has been really spearheading that with the boys. You know what I mean? And it's having direct conversations and being honest about where you're at and what's happening in the world. So one of the questions that I have is for everybody is like, when do you guys start having the conversation with your kids? The police conversation, to be direct. Like, how do you? I know for us, it was. They was like 9 years old. You know what I mean? They were like, it was pretty early because we were living in Jersey at that time. We were living in Princeton, very white. All that.
And that's probably right in the thick of all the, like, when Jersey was really doing that, profiling was real heavy. Yeah. I've been the target of that in Jersey myself. I still live in the city. Okay. So my dad was in Jersey, family all throughout Jersey. So I remember that when it was real heavy.
Yeah. And it hurts me that we have to have the conversation. Right. You see what I'm saying? That we have to like lay it out and say, hey, this is kind of like a code of conduct when you're out in the public and everything like that. Because as soon as you step outside, you're being judged. You're being judged by basically how you look. And, you could have a doctor, you could have a PhD, but you have a hoodie on, walking down the street, they see a certain thing and they're going to act a certain way with you. So yeah, that was my question. At what point do you decide to have the conversation, and what is that conversation? How does that sound with your family?
Yeah. So, you know what, I'd love to jump in there just real quick. So, you know, I started personally, you know, even parenting, you know, even before having any biological kids, like when I was like 17, my first godchild, you know, I was 17. So and even, you know, she's a girl being the very first one, you know, I realized that once I ended up having like the first boy, that the instinct was to do a couple things a little bit differently. In particular, like as you were saying, being affectionate, and you know, you always got to be careful anyway, right? With when it's children, learning how to show them, and even sometimes even for other people to witness you touching appropriately, right? Loving and disciplining appropriately. Again, even not being afraid to put a firm hand, right, on a child, understanding that there's a lot of space between that and being too rough or abusive or too heavy-handed. But my point is, I learned, and again, thankfully from my father, who had to really create a new paradigm for us in a sense, because his, you know, father was probably 20 times less, you know, engaged as yours. And he had to really create an entirely new model. So thankfully from that, I started very early. If I'm gonna kiss and hug, you know, the little girls, I'm gonna kiss and hug the boys too. Yeah. So I've always, you know, even now I got nephews, godchildren that are in their 20s, you know, and I still kiss the boys to this very day. Yeah. And I felt the times where it got a little weird or a little awkward for them, but I think the consistency with that, and always telling them how valuable they are to themselves, and that what their value is to me, and their value is to our family, that regardless of, you know, where else they are, that foundation is there, that foundation of male power, and understand what male love and affection and nurturing looks like, not just, you know, fear and discipline or heavy-handedness. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I've done that. I've tried to do that from the very, very, very beginning. That's from good. The moment they're born, from the moment they're in my life, is to, you know, is to create that kind of dialogue, even if it's even in the nonverbal ways that you can. Yeah. But then as soon as they start being, you know, independent of any kind, and they're moving around on their own, things are coming out of their own mouth that start to make sense. Yeah. They have to understand and process what boundaries are, but also try to give them some freedom and allow them to feel safe with you there for their protection.
I appreciate it. So Warren, did you have a question you want to throw in there?
Well, I mean, before we went on, I just wanted to just briefly because I wanted to at least get one of the forgive me for calling y'all the elders, but you know, you kind of put yourself out there, Mr. Jones.
I didn't mean to start
put yourself out there as the OG.
He didn't say elder.
They initiated it, right? We didn't start it. I ain't started.
So I'm just,
but he said OG.
And we don't mind them.
OG. Okay. OG, Mr. Jones.
Big brother.
Mind, please. Yeah, man. I mean, I want to assume if you have kids or not, but like Lamman was saying, you know, many of us have had to act as mentors since we've been, you know, teenagers. So whether you have or haven't had sons yourself or daughters, have you ever had that conversation, or when do you think it's appropriate to have that conversation? And then after that, I'll follow it up with another question.
I think our kids are really smart, and they're exposed to more information than we ever were, because they have so many more avenues to get it. And I think the right time to have a conversation is now, right? Whatever age your child is,
what age they are.
Yeah, the time is now, because they're seeing it anyway, and they're curious about it anyway. So just briefly, I have a son that's 36, and he was in school the day that OJ was found not guilty. And the first thing that I thought was, I got to go pick him up from school today, because anything could happen on his walk home, and it wouldn't be responsible for me as a parent, knowing what I know about this world, to let him walk home without that information. So I believe that the time is now. I'm working, I'm the national spokesman for the Kappa League mentorship program. And we basically work with young Black men from 13 to 18. And we just had a meeting last week where the young men came on virtually and talked to each other about how you got to interact with the police, because the thing that they need is to understand that their responsibility in any interaction with the police is to come home alive to their family. And so however you have to interact that allows you to come home alive, you have succeeded in that interaction, no matter what it looks like at that time. When you get back in the house and close the door behind you, you have won that interaction. So, so brothers, I say, the time is now, and they can handle it.
That's, thank you for that. What you said in there, Mr. Jones, was a really good segue into what I was going to ask. Because like you said that especially this generation has so much information just at their fingertips, whether it's online or on television. And I'll pose this question to you, Mr. Simon. What is the balance between keeping yourself and your family informed as to what's going on versus versus protecting them from the oversaturation of it's traumatizing seeing someone murdered, on television. It's traumatizing to see, all these acts of injustice, the violence and stuff like that. But like you said, we want to keep them informed. So what's the balance between keeping our families and ourselves informed versus protecting our mental and our family's mental health from all this trauma that's being piped in through the TV?
Well, I like to think of myself as someone who, as an artist and as a person living in the world, has their finger on the pulse of what's going on, that really feeds me, and so to be honest, my daughter is 28, and I don't have any access right now to be around a younger generation on a regular basis. So I don't really know, what that is. I know I'll say this though, just referencing my daughter, this past fall, she's in Chicago, and she's quite brilliant, if I say so myself. She's just finishing a master's program, about to go into a doctorate program for psychiatry. And I'm hanging out with her friends, who are this eclectic group of she calls herself, an intellectual nerd. And they were all these, from all walks of life, brown, yellow, red, people, all very accomplished young people vibing. No, there was no indication that they were even aware of their race or their nationality or any of that. They just were vibing on a whole different level. And I'm like, wow, I never experienced that, not like that. And those are the people that are on the street right now. Those are the kids that said, you know what? This is not what America is supposed to look like for us, because it doesn't look like this for us. When you see what happened to, George Floyd and all that, and they are out there, leading this movement. And, we are going to get on board, or we're going to be like dinosaurs, living in reflection to what used to be, but if change is going to happen, that's what it is. That's what it looks like. It's going to take all of us, and these kids coming behind us, they're showing the way. And it's because of us. It's because what we did before. We laid the seeds, and now we're seeing these seeds grow.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I was Okay, and real quick, go ahead.
And so just to piggyback on what Levy just said, the way that we have raised this generation of children, the change has already happened. They're just getting old enough where we have to listen. And so when they saw this happen out in the streets, they were like, nah, that's not the world we live in. And we're old enough that you can't shut us up anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And to add on to this, everybody is unemployed, and unemployment is paid until the end of July. So people don't have to go to work, but they also get unemployment.
Sure.
So the revolution is being financed by unemployment insurance. And so I don't think we should expect anybody to go back in the house between now and the time the money runs out.
Right on.
Right?
Oh,
Yeah, let's hope
I got him. I got him in my ear.
Security blanket goes away.
Yeah, indeed. Well, listen, I'm being told we have questions coming in through, I guess the various social media platforms. So I'm gonna invite Chris back in to give some of them questions.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Real quick, before I get into the questions, I just wanted to take a moment to say, as promised, Michele and Benja, just like to give a shout out to the Thank You online channel. Thank you to the online channel, the Black-owned streaming service brought to you by Mo Woods. So the show will be streaming live again on his platform. So we want to say thank you again, first and foremost. Secondly, we would like to check in on YouTube right now. We have a couple of different comments. The comments started at pretty much as soon as we started. And we had a couple of people. Right now we have Wicked Real, who's showing some love, had a couple of hearts. We have once again the on-channel online TV, they're coming in showing us some love. Strictly Talent One says, speak on it, Lamman. We have Justine J. Hall, who says, speak Black men. We have Hope Allen, who says, our client, Lamman Rucker, kicking off with the resolve and to be the solution. Strictly Talent, once again, says knowledge and stop comparing and live your life. Love it. We have
good one.
A couple of different, Alita, I can't pronounce your last name, so forgive me, but it says this whole conversation is a trigger for us who have grown up fine-tuning the skill of compartmentalizing. And then we have, the first question comes from Strictly Talent One, and the question is, in your opinion, what is the reform that is needed within the police force?
I'll just real quick, because I'm not a poli-sci major, anything like that. I make no claims to be any sort of expert in that regard. But I will say this: a friend of mine who just passed the bar, she posted something, and that actually made me think it was very, very profound in its simplicity. She said, it took her 4 years of law school, plus studying to pass the bar, to earn her Juris Doctorate, her JD.
You go with that. Yeah.
Right. So it took her years to learn, to be able to learn the law and apply it. However, it takes a potential police officer a couple of months, and forgive me if I don't have the exact amount of months, but a couple of months to become a gun carrying officer of that law, of said law. And she says that something is kind of wrong there, where in order to practice the law, you need years, but to defend the law, not only do you need much lesser months, but you also get a gun for your trouble. So I think one of the many reforms that can be made is extending it. Not just for the sake of making it longer, but I think there's something to years of study, not just in psychological study, but also in interpersonal skills study, and also in cultural appreciation and awareness study, also in law study, in all of those things. And perhaps you weed out some people who can't hack it, which is okay, you know, because in the prophetic words of Chris Rock, he said that you know, listen, hearing that police departments have a couple bad apples is unacceptable. Just like if American Airlines said, oh, we just have a couple bad apples, just a couple of our pilots know how to land, a couple of our pilots crash planes, you know, it's just, we just have a couple bad apples. No, that's unacceptable. We need all of our police officers to have a certain level of intellect, knowledge, mental health, et cetera, to perform as a cop. So, but that's my little 2 cents on it. But I welcome if anyone has maybe a brief say on police reform. I know that's a long
I'll
conversation.
jump in right there because I think connected to that, a lot of the work that I've done in this space is, yeah, there's so many things to talk about. I mean, we can have literally, you know, this whole conversation can be just on that alone, right? Yeah. Especially when you start dealing with other issues of, you know, in particular, one of the things that stands out, let me just stay here because there's, like I said, there's so many tangents to go on. We're seeing such a significant militarization of our local police. And to your point, what I think is connected to your point, Warner, is the fact that this other training that's really being valued and prioritized are people coming into local police forces after having served in the military.
Right.
And ironically, again, getting into the military is also not that hard. For some people, it's even easier. And for many young people, we forget that one of the things that we're dealing with is there's a lot of interconnected variables here, I believe. One of the things that has never been untrue for this country is that access to the military is also often provided as that out of being able to move yourself out of poverty. And we can often forget that we might think the face of poverty looks like us. It does not. The predominant, you know, population in poverty are actually white folks. And that's about economics, not just color. So when there's a lot of them are, you know, what we might even consider coming from some of our flyover states and our blue collar Bible Belt, you know, regions and Appalachia, you know, and so forth. We're getting young people who, where else do they have to go? How else are they possibly going to get access to quality employment? How else, what might they have access to getting out of a troubled, low income, maybe, you know, factory abandoned, you know, environment? You know, nobody's going to work at the gas station and the, you know, local diner or whatever, and that's it. Not everybody wants to become a local mechanic or just work at the local retail store. So I know these are generalizations of what we consider maybe, you know, a particular way of life that might be different than our demo, but I've worked in this space and even have done military contracting or work with companies that contract with the military. And when you look at what that predominant demo is, that are these young recruits and who come into the military, they're often coming in there for some very common, very similar reasons. And it's because many of them are trying to stay out of trouble or to avoid getting back into trouble, or they were the ones who've been bullied and pushed around. So then if we get that, and that's where they're coming from, and that's the desperation maybe that they're even coming from, then they go into military service, then they go through all that training and that psychosis and whatever trauma comes along with that actual military experience, not to mention the training and the brainwashing or what have you. And then you take them from that and you bring them into local law enforcement. You know, anybody who's actually been deployed, let's say they've been over in Iraq, now they're coming back from Iraq and they're coming into, you know, Minneapolis or wherever. You know, I was born in Pittsburgh, you know, we lost Antoine Rose getting shot in the back, you know, and there's plenty of other people on those lists, but there's countless people on these lists. So if we're treating our young Black men and boys and girls, you know, as Iraqi insurgents, you know, or like they're, right? Like, so it's a there's these really interconnected economic, psychological, educational access, right? Desperation for employment, not to mention the counseling and all this other stuff. We got to get to what's really going on in here, because the real healing isn't even so much from us dealing with the trauma. The healing is, I believe, is on the side of, you know, the predators, right? And the oppressors, if you will, because whatever they're going through is what we're suffering from, you know? So some of the changes need to be connected to where we're getting some of this law enforcement talent. The training, you know, construct that you're talking about is huge. A lot of people don't think of that. So that comparison you gave was incredibly profound, I think. But we really got to look at where this really important labor force is coming from that is policing our streets and our communities, and what makes them qualified in the first place.
Yeah. Right on, man.
Yeah, can I throw something in here, Warner?
Right. All right. And I just got in here. We got about 40 minutes.
All right. I'm going to be real brief on this. I saw a film where they had some clips of some of the Bull Connor type guys in the 1960s who said that their next move as white supremacist organizations was to join police and fire departments all over the country so that they could keep control over this insurgent Black population. In 2006, the FBI did a study that confirmed that white supremacist organizations have infiltrated police departments all over the country. And when they came out with that study, they were shouted down and the study was suppressed. But you can pull it up on the internet. Just look 2006, FBI, white supremacist local police. And so one of the things that we can do on a very baseline level is to have background checks for anybody that wants to join a police department anywhere. And if they have a background of white supremacist activity, you can't be in public service. You know, you have the right, as your First Amendment right, you can say and think whatever you want, but we're not going to give you a gun and let you go out and police the people you say you hate. And until we deal with that part, which goes back to systemic racism that then gives an outlet to people who are inherently racist to inflict their racist policies on the people who they say they hate with the endorsement of the state. And until we deal with that, until we start background checking these people, so we know who are the racists, who are involved with white supremacist organizations, with 4chan and 8chan, where they're spreading this white supremacist message and organizing for themselves, until we acknowledge that they are within the ranks, they will always find a way around whatever kind of policies you put in place to keep them from doing wrong to Black people. Because in the end of it, they already know it's wrong. They're just doing it. Right. You know, the guy that was on George Floyd's neck, he knew you were watching. The guy who just shot the brother down in Atlanta, he knew there were cameras there. He did not care.
They don't care.
Yeah, he didn't care. So you got to get them out first.
Right. Could I chime in here, please?
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Just really, really brief.
Okay. Well, I mean, along with what JJ was just saying, there's also that blue wall of silence thing. You know, I get so tired of hearing people say, oh, well, there are some good cops. Well, where are they? You know, when all of these so-called bad cops are going around abusing and killing Black people, why aren't the good cops, so-called good cops, standing up and speaking out? You know, they have that blue wall of silence, and it's got to go. You know, just what happened in Atlanta, you know, when the charges were handed down on that officer, and then the next day you have officers calling in sick. And so they saw the same video we all saw. Right. They saw it. but they're gonna call in sick. So what are you saying? Or we have to, we reserve the right to be able to kill a black man whenever we want to. That's what they're saying. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that shit out.
Right.
That's what we're up against. So that screening process, you know, as JJ was just talking about, is going to have to be very, very thorough. So those people will never be entering into a police office, into a police station, or, you know, and given, you know, a gun and a badge and the right to shoot us down.
Right. Absolutely. Actually, as a great, you set up a great segue, and it actually made me think of some of the things that all of us have been saying, but specifically Pervis, which I'm gonna extend this one to you as well as Benton. You said something about, you know, you not being able to, and forgive me for quoting it not perfectly, but not being able to change those people. We have to change essentially ourselves to some degree. We have to, you know, be responsible for our own healing. So moving forward, you know, because we talked a lot about the, you know, the issues and the problems. And just for those listening, in any given barbershop in America, USA, just go to a black, you know, this is how brothers talk. Now, it's a lot more cacophonous, you know, we talking over each other there. Here's a bit more respectful, you know what I'm saying? Which, you know, we want to put our best foot forward for the people watching. But in a barbershop, this is how it goes down, right? You know, brothers can talk.
It'd be a lot more animated, huh?
Yeah, a lot more animated words,
and a lot more
colorful
language.
Words.
A lot more colorful language.
Yeah,
true that.
But in the time that we have left, in the little bit of time we have left, and remember, just keep your answers as brief as possible and on topic as possible. Moving forward, not only as black men, but also as fathers, as brothers, you know, as sons, as uncles, mentors. What are we responsible for, considering, you know, we have, you know, perhaps cops and legislation and all these politics and presidents that are not, or that seem to not really be for us. What are we responsible for with regard to healing within our communities, within our neighborhoods, within our families, within ourselves? What are we responsible for? Pervis, I'll go to you first, then to Benton.
Well, you know, heal communities first start with a healed individual. And so it's a collective of healed individuals. And one of the things that Benton said earlier that I thought was so profound, I don't know if you saw me, but I was like over here jumping around, is modeling what you want the future to be. So he was saying that he showed his son vulnerability. He shows his son how to be vulnerable. He shows his son him being emotional. He shows his son all facets of who he is. And that's honoring his humanity. And I think it begins, again, I think it comes to us like we have to be whole. And whole is not a life without imperfections. What it means is that you've mastered the things that once mastered you. And so like, that's the thing. It's like modeling wholeness. Figure out what are the things that are going to make you whole. How are you going to triumph over the things that have harmed you? And that's all you're really responsible for, is healing yourself. Everything that's happening around the world, that's out of your control. But again, what's in your control is how you show up in the world. And
right. That's thank you, Pete. Benton.
Yeah, thank you, Pervis. That's thank you. I just love it. You know, when you hear things and you're like, yes, your spirit's like, that's what you needed. You need to hear that. Yeah. To keep it real brief, I'll try to limit it to one thing, which is a practice. Now, all of us as artists, we really have these things sometimes we take for granted, but we have practice. So we have rehearsal. So you know, on that 20th day of rehearsal, you've changed this thing, you've grown, you've evolved, and you can see it because we keep doing it over and over again. And I think a lot of people in the world that don't have those kind of practices, whether it be a rehearsal process, whether it be a meditation process, a spirituality, whatever it is, that they need to learn how to focus and have something that they can go to every day that's consistent, that you can judge yourself against yourself of the day in the past. So I would really implore, like, I think that it's our responsibility, this generation, to really have a practice that's valid and that have a social network that helps keep you honest and keeps you accountable. And that also that we need to unlearn our own racism and prejudice against our own people, which is, there's so many businesses that we could be collectively dealing with, that we could keep money internally, but we still want to buy X, Y, and Z and buy this because that's what success looks like and whatever. And we need to retrain ourselves to start thinking about what does success look like. It looks like our neighbor succeeding. It looks like the person that lives across the street from me supporting them and buying their shirt, their shirt for $20 instead of buying a Nike shirt for $35 or whatever it is. And so I think it's a real paradigm shift, but I think the way we get to it is by having something in place that we can do every day that's free. That's why I keep going. I teach meditation specifically to BIPOC communities, and it's free. You have this at home. You don't need to go somewhere. You don't have to go to a yoga class. Have something that you can check in with yourself every day and keep yourself accountable, because that change is going to take us time to get there.
Thank you, Benton. Mr. Jones, what say you?
Listen, run the question to me again, because we've heard a lot of really good stuff here.
Right. Nah, no problem. The question was, as Black men, moving forward, as Black men, as brothers, as fathers, as sons, uncles, mentors, etc., what is our responsibility with regard to healing of our neighborhoods, of our homes, of our families, of ourselves?
I would say a couple of things. One, our responsibility as parents is to protect them until they can protect themselves. And every child is different. Some kids are ready to go out into the world when they're 18. Some are not ready to go out until they're 30. So
right.
Being willing to step in and assume that role of protector is where, for me, it starts with my family. In terms of my community, I believe in the phrase that you have to be what you want it to become. And I think I've heard that several times in this conversation, that, you have to create the model. And it's harder to be it, obviously, than it is to talk about it. But being it is what allows people who would normally be followers to have the example to follow that's going to be good for the community, because you've already set the example. So briefly, in my community, that's why I decided to get involved with the mentorship program that I'm involved with, because it allows me to set an example, not only for my brothers in my fraternity, but for Black men all over, that, just because it's not your kids doesn't mean that they're not your kids. Right. So, so just get involved and set the example. When you say you're going to do it, do it. When you're scheduled to be there 5 minutes early. When you're supposed to talk, have something to say. And that has a ripple effect, like a pebble in an ocean. People see you doing that. And then the next time that they encounter that situation, what they saw from you plays in their head as an image, and they react to the images in their head. So it does make a difference. What we do does make a difference. And I say, be what you want your community to become.
Right. I'm gonna let James get the last word on that. But you reminded me of this Frederick Douglass quote, and forgive me for saying it. He says that it's easier to grow children than repair broken men, or something like that. So something to that effect. And yeah, it made me think of, I believe, and it's not, but I believe, every man should be a mentor. Every man should be a mentor and have a mentor. Because one, being a mentor, you're pouring into someone and are directly affecting not only their future, but your future, to be quite honest. But also by being mentored, it's easy for us to miss our blind spots. And if we have someone who loves us and is for us, and we have allowed to serve as that accountability, it also helps us help other people. But but thank you for that, Ms. Jones. James.
Yes, sir. Hey, listen, everybody said it, but I think besides on protection and everything with your families, I love, man. I think if you are showing your family that you love them, you support them, you're constantly nurturing them and giving them validation and lifting them up, I think that goes out into the community. They take those seeds with them out into the world. You know what I mean? And with our boys, we're constantly trying to reinforce that, self-worth, being proud, being a strong Black man, understanding what that looks like in the world for yourself, and how you move and walk is going to affect everybody. So when my sons, they say, hey, I want to go down to the, store and get some candy or whatever, we've had that talk about, this is how you act, this is how you're out in the world, and this is how people are going to perceive you, just because you look a certain way. But the way that you carry yourself, chin up, speaking out, looking people in their eye, being respectful, it carries weight when you've left that building, So I think that if we're focusing on ourselves first and being honest with ourselves and loving ourselves first, then I think that can go out into the world and affect change that way also.
So, man, you also you had the next question, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and it ties into like just with everything that's going on, with all the images of us being gunned down in the street, like how is this affecting you guys, and how are you guys processing it, and are you talking, directly with the kids and with your family about it, or are you shielding it, to a degree to protect them? Like where are you guys sitting at with every, with the images of us being killed in the streets right now? Anybody can jump in. It's cool.
Well, I'll hop in. One of the things I do on a regular basis, and again, this is part of where, again, the Black Gents started off, man. We were very much inspired by, initially, just the need to tell our own stories and to tell the whole story. And that's the thing. If there's nobody talking about it and nobody really taking the lead on having a real vulnerable and authentic conversation about what's really going on inside of us, these boils just kind of end up boiling over and they just erupt, right? And then we're vilified for our behavior, but nobody gave a damn about our feelings. So we've got to, I think, continue to create frameworks like this and integrate our younger, boys into these conversations, or allow them, if nothing less, to just be still, be quiet, and witness this type of communication and unification and collaboration amongst, mature men. Similar to John's point and so many things that, all of you have said, it's setting that example, it's laying that groundwork, and also at some point, or whenever they have the impetus, or as we encourage and give them permission and access to, give them the opportunity to start actually practicing, right? I think to Benton's point, expressing themselves and how they learn to develop the proper coping mechanisms and methods of healing and personal kind of reconciliation. And I think we all at some point create kind of routines for ourselves, right? I'm also an IT guy. So, as a systems person, I realize so much of my life, aside from being so spiritual and creative and free-formed, is also very, very structured and designed and aligned. And it's about systems. And we all, whether we know it or not, or even acknowledge it or not, we have systems that we create. And whether we call these habits, whether we call them behaviors, whatever they're based on and however they're defined, what they are is, what is our typical, mode of operation when it comes to different things, or when it comes to different stimuli. And I think a huge part of what we can do is not just continue to do this with and for each other. I think whether it's chat groups, whether it's just casual like Zooms where we just get together and this is the kind of bread breaking and, catharsis or whatever, like just supporting each other, loving each other, man, telling each other we love each other, proving to each other through action and consistent effort that we love each other, uplifting one another's families, as well, being there for each other, but also allowing our boys and our girls, which is extremely important, for our girls to also witness this and understand, because as they evolve into women and as sisters, or whether they're going to be wives, girlfriends, mothers, and whatever, they need to also have the experience and the exposure of how to love, respect, appreciate, push, encourage, invigorate, hold accountable, all of that, men and boys. And so this is, I think, a real opportunity for us to really kind of work together and really be consistent about this. But this setting an example comes in very, very clear, tangible, and accessible ways, so that we can be further along, and definitely our children can be more practiced and have more resolve and more confidence in themselves and in their ability to move through, whatever happens to it. I think my mom's on here, so I'm gonna shout her out as well with regard to that. You mentioned my dad and and how I adore him, but my mother as well. And one of the things that I'll leave you with on this point is one of the things that's always resonated with me that she told me very early on is the sooner you get to it, the sooner you get through it, So we can't deny what's happening to us, around us, and within us. And we really have to work on and practice, the methods, and techniques that come along with, how we work through this stuff and move forward.
I'm gonna. I was told we're going to quickly move into resolutions. Well,
that was mine. So I'll stand down. That was mine.
You gave.
Right there.
I wish we had the transcripts of that. So we could all kind of say that as an affirmation. But we're gonna move into resolutions. But before we do, I wanted Benton to briefly chime in on that last question, and then after that, we're gonna segue to Chris and see if we have any other questions from the audience, from the YouTube online audience. But first, Benton, just briefly, maybe add some comments to that last question.
Yeah, real brief. In fact, it's full circle to what I started off with, which was when I was asked how we're feeling, which is in the moment, watching all these things, I think is really traumatic. I think it is really traumatic. And so I haven't shielded it from my 15-year-old son, but I know he has access to everything online, more than I do, way more, probably more than I want to know about, to be honest. But, who knows what he's watching? But him and his friends, they've seen it to the point where he went to his first protest without me. He's been going to rallies and protests with me since he was a baby, literally. But he went to his first protest without me. So I know that he's getting it. So I don't have to show it to him. But I know for myself, if I don't feel on that particular day that I can watch any of this footage, people, I've been seeing a lot of people post about, we owe it to them to watch the footage. I don't believe in that at all. If you can't, as a Black person, watch some of this footage, do not re-traumatize yourself and kind of bring up all this PTSD from anything in your own life because you feel like somehow you owe another brother, another sister. You don't owe them that. What you owe them is your joy. You do not owe them that at all. You owe them their respect. You owe them, your voting, all these other things, but you do not owe them the trauma that it can bring back up in you. So the quick version of it is, if I don't feel like I can watch it, I'm not watching it.
True. Cool.
That's a good word. That's an excellent word. Chris, Mr. Bethune, we have any questions from the online community?
By the way, relative to PTSD, that National PTSD Awareness Day is actually next week, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's next Friday or Saturday. It might even be a week from today, if I'm not mistaken. So that's just, the primary purpose, sorry to interject, but along those lines, I think that's actually really key, that we don't really acknowledge our experience and our trauma isn't acknowledged in a similar way. But I want you all to know and be aware of. And again, I think another opportunity to connect this is to National PTSD Awareness Day. And I believe it's June 27th.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm actually happy you chimed in because it gives me a transition. Your mom actually said you're all providing great wisdom. By the way, unemployment has not come through for millions yet. Backlog is rapid in the system. We have a couple more comments. Wicked Real, send us some hearts. You guys are killing this, and drop some fire. Wicked Real also said, my heart's blowing up. Justine J. Hall says, yes, They're out there and they're not going anywhere. MJ dropped the fire emblems as well. The on-channel online TV said, racism comes from ignorance. Schools don't teach our stories. They hide them, they omit them, or whitewash our stories. Do you think it's important to fight to get all textbooks replaced? We had a couple of praying emojis in the heart from Wicked Real. Justine J. Hall said, they are harder on teachers. They are harder on teachers on their misconduct. Again, the on-channel online TV said, teaching white supremacy is embedded in these textbooks. It's why a certain group believes it's superior to other groups. Strictly Talent One said, high school diploma and approximately 21 weeks of training in the United States to become a cop. Shame. The online channel online said, JJ, yes, facts. Wicked Real said exactly. Justine J. Hall said silent. And we had a couple new people jumping in on the chat. Debbie McIntyre said, love you guys. YSW, yes, young girls. Debbie again said, speak on it. Wyatt said, yes, young girls need to see strong men. T. Renee, we love you, T. Renee. She said, hi guys, we love you. And Michelle just recommented National PTSD Day next week. Let's look it up. And also the March on Washington is coming in August.
August, yes. If we want to get this last bit in, Pervis, I am giving you the responsibility to come up with an airtight, dope resolution, no pressure. But have about like maybe 2 minutes. So yeah, off the top of the dome.
Resolution regarding what specifically?
All that we've talked about. Maybe I'll make it somewhat specific, but keep it general. Just with regard to men and our mental health, how we should move through life that would positively impact us as well as our families and communities.
Got you. I'll be brief. I always say to men, I said, no one is born ill-equipped. They're just born ill-informed. And I'm here to inform you that you have everything you need for your life to thrive. You have everything you need for your life, not my life, not the next man's life. So you possess within you. I think the Bible even says that he's given us everything we need for life and godliness. So we possess everything we need for our journeys to thrive and to be whole. Mm-hmm. So we already possess it. It's just sometimes we need help in finding them and them being highlighted, but we possess everything we need.
I don't. And just, I'll do this for him. Pervis has an excellent book out right now called Surthrival Mode. That you should absolutely pick up because it talks about in length and accessibility, all the things that we've been, or at least a lot of the things that we've been talking about today. So definitely encourage you to pick that up. But yeah, man, we could go on literally. I know people say that we could go on a long time, long time. But unfortunately, we cannot. So thank you. This has been the Actor's Life, the Black Brothers edition. I'd like to just thank Pervis Taylor, Lamman Rucker, James Jackson, Levy Simon, JJ Johns, Benton Greene, Chris Bethune, and all of the amazing women that have allowed us this platform and privilege. And also shout out to our sons, our daughters, our nephews, our fathers, our uncles, our mentors. I love you, Black man. I love y'all.
Love you too, Black man.
I love y'all, man.
Yes, sir.
Y'all stay up. I think we're gonna stay on for a little while and no. You know I got to get my instructions from the sisters, right?
Hey, be sure to vote, man. Be sure to vote.
Yes, be sure to vote. Listen, if you're living in New York, I'm in Brooklyn. If you're living in New York, June 23rd, if you ain't registered, please. I hope it's not too late, but please register. Our primaries are June 23rd in New York. I don't know what it is for other states in the country, but the name of Pervis's book is Surthrival Mode. Surthrival Mode. Vote, please. See some people in the gallery who sat in Genia.
Yeah, man. What are everybody's handles real quick, man? Everybody throw their handles out real quick. Follow you, cats.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I was gonna follow everybody at Pervis Taylor, PervisTaylor.
Right.
Pervis
Taylor.
Taylor.
Yeah.
All right, and at John Marshall Jones, Marshall with 2 L's, at John Marshall Jones.
At Bentronius Maximus. There's only going to be one. Exactly. You're gonna find it real quick. Just put BENTR, boom, it'll come up. Bentronius Maximus.
I'm not actually on, so I'm actually underground right now. So I have a little Facebook. James Murray Jackson
We won't ask why.
Facebook. What's up?
We won't ask why. Stay low to the ground, brother.
He got people looking for him.
I'm down here in Texas, so I gotta keep it real.
What part of Texas you in?
I'm in Dallas.
Yeah, he can't
I'm
give
from
up his
Dallas.
location.
Oh, you from
He
Dallas?
can't tell you. He can't tell you.
Okay.
I'm born and raised in Dallas.
All right, what's up? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh, yeah,
listen, I got to step out, brothers. Love y'all much and
Same
many
here, man.
blessings. Real honor to be here.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you,
Back at
Mr.
you,
Jones, Mr. OG. Now,
Yeah,
now
listen.
forever. If I ever see you,
It's good to be an OG.
right on.
It sure
man.
is.
Amen.
It's a blessing.
So
Take care,
I'm
brothers.
at Lamman Rucker, official, LAMMANRUCKER, official. And the Black Gents is at the Black Gents, THEBLACKGENTS.
I think I put mine in the chat, but for IG and Twitter, it's at his name is Warner. His name is Warner, all one. And on Facebook, it's just my name, Warner Miller.
Yeah, for everything else, I'm just at Lamman Rucker. Make sure that's the actual address, not just the name of the account. There's a lot of imposters out there, real talk.
A lot of people wanting to be you, man.
Man,
Listen.
They want your rhythm and not your blues.
Hey, right?
And
You
I'm
gotta be careful.
Mr. Bethune, BETHUNE.
Say that again, Chris.
Yep, I'm at Mr. Bethune, MR_BETHUNE.
Yeah, let me follow you.
Mr. Bethune, bet. Followed you back.
And Mary McLeod is my great aunt. Just
Word. You know what's funny?
Oh, okay.
I almost threw on my
You should have.
Bethune shirt, man.
You should have.
Like, yeah, that's one of the HBCUs I actually work with. I spoke down there last year as well, but yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
dope.
Word.
that's
All right,
funny.
so
yeah, that's what's up.
So y'all, I'm
Legacy,
getting the word from the head woman in charge. We're rapping, and she wants everyone to give one word, literally one word, as a closing word. So since it's on my mind, my daughter's name is Amani, which is Swahili for peace. So I'm gonna just leave it with peace.
I'll go next. Purpose.
Breath.
Breath. Powerful.
Hey, Lamman.
Courage.
James. Turn your thing on. Nah, I can't hear you, bro. You saying love, right? I can see it. Love. Mr. Simon.
Perseverance.
Perseverance. Bet. So now saying I can invite the audience in. So audience, come in as you will. And yeah, man, it's been a real pleasure, man. Real pleasure serving and hearing you guys and gleaning from what you said, man. There's been a lot of wisdom on this live. So appreciate
And mine is
you. Oh wait, did I forget somebody?
And what defines
Chris.
us all, right? What defines us all, which is act, and all the many definitions of it. So maybe as a collective word for everything everybody said, man, act.
Thank you, fellas.
Yeah, man.
I
appreciate y'all.
So Benji, Miss Benji, did we do a good job?
You guys were excellent.
We didn't burn the place down.
Yeah, she burned it. It's on fire, baby. It's on fire. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been awesome. Michelle, what would you like to happen now?
All right, so we got our last words. You guys are going to be invited again if you'd like to come back and talk. We know 2 hours might be a little stressful for our audience, so we just wanted you to give them some last words of love and have your own last words of love. I am going to end the recording, which is now still feeding out to YouTube Live. And then we'll do an Actors Life the Series behind the scenes style.